go see my girl?
Well, put your rubbers on. It's raining torrents. We won't leave this house till you're prepared for it.
Oh, Ma, it's just a step. George, listen to your mother.
From tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all weathers. But as long as you live in my house, you live wisely, thank you. Seems like Mrs. Webb isn't used to callers at 7 in the morning. Here, take your coffee first.
Be back in a minute. Good morning, Mother Webb.
Goodness, George, you frightened me. Now, George, you can come in and stand for a minute out of the rain, but really, you understand. I can't let you in.
Why not?
Now, George, you know as well as I do, groom's not allowed to see his bride on his wedding day. Not until he sees her in the church.
Aw, that's just a superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in that superstition, do you?
There's a lot of common sense in superstition, George.
Millions followed it, George, so you be the first to fly in the face of custom.
How's Emily?
She's still asleep. I haven't heard a sound out of her all morning.
Emily's asleep?
Well, of course. We were up till all hours of the night sewing and packing. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do, George. You sit down here and drink this cup of coffee with Mr. Webb, and I'll go upstairs and see if she don't come down and surprise you. There's some bacon on the stove, but don't be long about it.
Well, George. How are you?
I'm fine. Mr. Webb, what common sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, George. On the wedding morning, a girl's apt to be, nervous. There's a lot on her mind. Like clothes, one thing, another. Don't you think that's probably it?
Yes. I never thought of that.
A girl's apt to be a mite nervous.
Gee, I wish a person could get married without all that marching up and down.
Every man that's ever lived has felt that way, but it hasn't been used. It's the women folk that built up weddings, my boy. They've had it all their own for a while now. A man looks pretty small at a wedding. All those good women standing shoulder to shoulder, making sure they're not tied in a mighty public way.
Well, you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Yes. Oh, yes. Don't misunderstand me, George. Marriage is a wonderful thing. Wonderful thing.
No, sir. Mr. Webb, how old were you when you got married?
Well, George, I had been to college for a while, and it had taken me some time to get settled down. Mrs. Webb wasn't much older than what Emily is now. Oh, age hasn't much to do with it compared to other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
I don't know. Was I going to say something? George, I was remembering the other night what my father told me when I was getting married. He said, Charles, yes, he said, start showing off who's boss. Best thing to do is give a command, even if it doesn't make sense. Then she'll learn to obey. And also, he said, if anything about her annoys you, her conversation, anything, get right up and leave. And also, he said, never tell how much money you have. Never.
Well, I couldn't exactly...
But I did the opposite, and I've been happy ever since. So let that be a lesson to you, George. Never give advice on Never ask advice on anybody's personal matter. Are you going to raise chickens on your farm, George?
What?
Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Yes. My Uncle Luke hasn't gone in for chickens much, but I've been figuring on reading up.
In the office, a book came in on the philo system about raising chickens. I wish you read it. I'm thinking about starting a small way myself in the backyard, an incubator in the cellar.
Charles Webb, are you talking about that incubator in the cellar again? You were supposed to be talking about more important things.
Well, Myrtle, if you'd like to give the boy some good advice, I'll go upstairs.
George, Emily sends you her love, but she doesn't want you to lay eyes on her before the wedding. Goodbye, George.
Goodbye! Myrtle, I guess you forgot about the other superstition.
What would that be, Charles?
Since